Go drop like rain, nigga, watch me hit those trees. Alright, this is going to be a shorter one since I'm still working on the Chunin Exams Revisited video, and it's quite a bit longer than the Land of Waves, but should be out soon. So, with that being said, you know the drill. Like, sub, comment, music channel in the description. Let's get into it. Taijutsu, ninjutsu, and genjutsu are the big three types of jutsu we focus on in Naruto. There's quite a bit of Bukijutsu, which is the ninja weapons, but that tends to get swept under Taijutsu unless there's chakra involved, and then it gets swept under ninjutsu. But of those big three that I mentioned, genjutsu is probably the least used and the most underrated. But let's start at the beginning. What is a genjutsu? And that's both easy and hard to answer, because the simple answer is an illusion or manipulation of someone's senses through chakra, which means it's almost always intangible, and I say almost because of a certain moon jutsu we'll get to in a bit. But that's just a simple answer, because you may be asking how exactly does one apply this chakra to be able to manipulate senses, and that's where it gets complicated, because really you could do this any number of ways through physical touch, attaching chakra to an opponent through ninjutsu, and if you're really good, you get access to things like AoE genjutsu, where it's like radio waves or an invisible bubble, and the Sharingan has like an invisible laser type deal, the way it can catch someone in a genjutsu just from looking at it. So many applications. And with the ability to make illusions that are indistinguishable from real life, so much so that you can confuse, paralyze, or even kill, it's a wonder we didn't see whole villages dedicated to that style of battle. But we see two genjutsu specialists, one of which does not even call himself a genjutsu specialist. And you know what's crazy about Kurenai calling herself a genjutsu specialist? On top of her losing in the first and only battle she has, when Itachi didn't even use his high-level genjutsu, he just reversed her own genjutsu. We go on to see many non-genjutsu specialists use way stronger genjutsu than Kurenai. And of course that's because stronger ocular dojutsu get more common and stats are all around just higher. But to be a Jonin genjutsu specialist in the strongest village and be outclassed by literal kids is nuts. And nobody even takes her place. None of the Konoha 13 are genjutsu specialists, even if you want to add Sasuke into that. And that's one of the biggest problems genjutsu has in Naruto. It's underrepresented, and even when it is used, it's usually used by someone once, and that's basically their only genjutsu, which makes no sense. You'd think that learning a few genjutsu would just be par for the course, and not knowing any would fall under the bar, even with learning how to get out of and reverse genjutsu. It would just be good to have a jutsu up your sleeve that allows you to at least skip a battle or two, especially in war when you may encounter smaller, weaker enemies put there specifically to drain your strength, so that when you get to the big guys you're tired and worn out. But if you have a small deck of genjutsu at your disposal, you can make it through all those battles without having to physically exert yourself or take any damage, and depending on the genjutsu, it could be a minimal cost in terms of chakra. But let's talk about a few of the genjutsu we see in the series. And I want to start with one that you might not have even known was a genjutsu. The Feather Sleep Jutsu, which I thought that was its name, but I looked it up and apparently it's called the Temple of Nirvana technique, which is a cool name, but way too cool for this jutsu. And I want to talk about it because it is one of the craziest jutsu that we only see once. And you would think that there would be way more of just this type of technique, because falling asleep in the middle of a battle is literally the definition of losing a fight. And sure, if you see it coming, you can just do the release and you'll be fine, but it's not like it was super easy to spot. Sakura and Shikamaru were the only non-elites that didn't get caught in it, and both of them have high as balls stats in one area. Intelligence for Shikamaru, and Sakura's ability to see through genjutsu due to her chakra control being so high she can feel when it's off. And the next genjutsu I want to talk about is the sound-based genjutsu. And there are two I want to talk about. Tayuya's Chains of Fantasia, and Ma and Pa's Demonic Illusion Toad Chant Confrontation. And I'll let you guess which one of those I had to look up to get the name. But first, Chains of Fantasia. It's a jutsu that relies on a flute. And I wonder if Tayuya had been able to make those sounds with just her mouth, how much stronger she would have been. Because after her flute gets destroyed, she gets the same. And next is Toad Chant Confrontation. I always thought this was such an interesting concept that the frogs had their own versions of ninjutsu and genjutsu, because you'd think that all the frogs use nature energy, but I don't think that's the case, and I would not be surprised if only the stronger or highest up frogs could even use nature energy at all. And I'm going to be honest, I didn't really talk about the genjutsu themselves just now because there isn't much to go on, just some thoughts that I had. But the next one is going to take up the rest of the video because we're talking about the Tsukuyomi. And that's Itachi's version and the Infinite, because I would love to know how these two are connected. And I have a little theory if you'll just indulge me for a second. I think Itachi named his ability Tsukuyomi after the Infinite Tsukuyomi after he read the Uchiha Stone Tablet. Because I always found it so weird that both of Itachi's abilities were something outside of him that existed and people knew about before he was even born. And even the Tosca Blade, I think, is something that just works the same way as the one Orochimaru was looking for in the physical world, like a Sage of Six Paths tool. But talking about Itachi's version of Tsukuyomi, if you tweak it so the person is awake and living out whatever illusion you put them in, you effectively have a Kodo Amatsukami. And to move the scope to the Infinite Tsukuyomi, it's such a weird drawback that everyone is asleep and in their own perfect world, instead of just Kodo Amatsukamiing the world so at least one person gets a real perfect world. But then again, that whole plotline was leading to a whole different universe. Literally. And last thing, I always wondered if the Infinite Tsukuyomi only worked because Kaguya was sealed in the moon. Because she was manually putting people in the genjutsu while she was on Earth, and if that's the case, how was her being in the moon making it so the entire world was now in a genjutsu all at once? Let me know what you think down below, and I hope you enjoyed the video, because that's it. So, until next time, I'm out. Peace.